Hello everyone, welcome to Digital Communication Tutorials. In this video, I am going to derive an expression for the average probability of error for M-ARRY phase shift keying technique. At first, I would like to give a very brief introduction to M-ARRY PSK. We know that in a binary PSK system, the information carried by the transmitted signal was contained in the phase of the same. Since the number of inputs in a binary PSK is 2, the total phase is divided into two equal parts which were 0 and pi. In a QPSK system, which is an extension of binary PSK, the information carried by the transmitted signal is once again contained in the phase of the same. Since in a QPSK the number of input signals are 4, the total phase is here divided into 4 equal parts which are named as pi by 4, 3 pi by 4, 5 pi by 4 and 7 pi by 4. If I extend this principle to M-ARRY PSK, we will note that the information carried by the transmitted signal is once again contained in the phase of the same. In M-ARRY PSK, since the number of input signals is m, the total phase here is divided into m equal parts. So, in a binary PSK, the total phase is divided into two parts. In a QPSK, the phase is divided into 4 parts, and in an M-ARRY PSK, the phase is divided into m equal parts. Right. With that brief introduction, let us start by defining the signals for M-ARRY PSK. Just like what we have done for binary PSK and QPSK, let the phase of the carrier in the M-ARRY PSK take one of the m possible values, which are theta I equals to 2I pi divided by m, where I takes on the value from 0 to m minus 1. Accordingly, during each signaling interval of duration capital T, which is also called as a symbol duration, one of the following m possible signals are transmitted. The signal itself is given by Si of t equals square root of 2e by t cos 2 pi fct plus 2 pi I divided by m, where this part, which is the transmitted signal phase, will be placed here. Once again, here I varies from 0 to m minus 1. Capital E represents the signal energy per symbol and capital T represents the symbol duration, and Fc is the carrier frequency and is given by Nc divided by capital T for some fixed integer Nc. Now, equation 2 is in the form of cos A plus B, which is given by cos A cos B minus of sin A sin B. Let this part be taken as A and this part be taken as B, and I will expand this equation as per the trigonometric identity to get Si of t equals square root of 2e by t cos A cos B, where A is 2 pi I by m and B is 2 pi fct, minus of once again square root of 2e by t sin A sin B. Once again, I takes on the value 0 to m minus 1. In the next step, we will find the orthonormal basis functions. To find the same, you are supposed to substitute I equals to 0, 1, 2, etc. in this equation. For example, when I is 0, we will get the very first signal S0 of t, which is square root of 2e by t cos 0 into cos 2 pi fct minus of square root of 2e by t sin 0 into sin 2 pi fct. When I replace I by 1, once again I will get square root of 2e by t cos 2 pi by m cos 2 pi fct minus of square root of 2e by t sin 2 pi by m sin 2 pi fct. If I keep on replacing the value of I with the rest of the values for I here, I will find that in each equation there are some common parts in the in-phase and quadrature phase components. The common part in the in-phase component is square root of 2 by t cos 2 pi fct, and the one in the quadrature component is square root of 2 by t sin 2 pi fct. These will become the orthonormal basis functions which are given here. So, phi 1 of t square root of 2 by t cos 2 pi fct over the interval 0 to capital T, and phi 2 of t square root of 2 by t sin 2 pi fct over the interval 0 to capital T. Please note, these are quadrature carrier orthonormal basis functions. Coming back to equation 3, you should note that square root of e should not be taken as a part of the orthonormal basis function because e represents the energy of the corresponding signal and it is specific for a corresponding signal, so it does not come under the orthonormal basis function. Now, having found the basis functions, let us represent the signal Si of t in terms of the basis functions. This is given in equation 6 here. So, Si of t equals Si1 into phi1 of t plus Si2 into phi2 of t, where Si1 and Si2 are the coefficients of expansion which can be obtained by using equations 7 and 8 as shown here. Si1 equals to integral 0 to capital T Si of t into phi1 of t dt. Si2 equals integral 0 to capital T Si of t into phi2 of t dt. From equations 7 and 8, we understand that each signal is characterized by two coefficients that will form the signal coordinates in the signal space. In equation 9 here, we have shown the signal vector for signal Si of t, which has two elements Si1 and Si2. Now, these element values can be directly obtained from the equation 3 here. So, the in-phase signal component is square root of e cos of 2 pi I by m and the quadrature phase component is square root of e sin 2 pi I by m, which is what is given here. So, Si1 and Si2 are given here. Now, if you want to find the coordinate of any specific signal Si of t, then I have to simply substitute the value of I into this equation to find its coordinates. For example, the very first signal S0 of t, which has a signal vector S0, will be placed at square root of e into cos 0, which is square root of e itself, and square root of e into sin 0, which is 0. So, S0 of t will be mapped onto the constellation diagram at the coordinate point root e comma 0. Further, by analyzing equation 9 as well as the equations that substitute the basis functions, we will find that the signal constellation for M-Array PSK is two-dimensional with capital M message points, and these message points are equally spaced on a circle of radius root e and the center at the origin. This is very important because we say M-Array PSK constellation diagram exhibits circular symmetry. In this diagram, we have shown a sample example for the constellation diagram for octave phase shift keying. Please note there are 8 message points and therefore this is octave phase shift keying. Also, we will find each signal point is at a distance of root e from the origin, and therefore when I connect all of these points, it forms a circle, and that is why we say all the message points lie on a circle of radius root e from the origin. Let us now move on towards the decision rule. To obtain the decision rule, we need to now divide the constellation diagram. Since there are m message points in an M-Array PSK, the signal space is supposed to be divided into capital M decision regions. The decision rule therefore will now be to simply decide upon signal Si of t if the received signal point falls inside region Zi. For example, the message point S0 of t, which is the point that is shown here on the x-axis, has a decision boundary from minus pi by m to plus pi by m. This is because we have now divided the total phase, which is 2 pi, into m equal parts. Therefore, the decision boundaries for the message point S0 of t will be plus pi by m to minus pi by m. If the received signal point falls inside this region, then a decision will be made in favor of the signal S0 of t. If the transmitted signal was also S0 of t, then this decision will be called as a correct decision. On the other hand, if the transmitted signal was not S0 of t, then the decision will be called an erroneous decision. Let us now move on towards the receiver. Let the received noisy M-Array PSK signal be denoted by x of t, and x of t is given by Si of t plus W of t, where Si of t is the transmitted signal and W of t is the sample value of a Gaussian random variable W of t with mean value equal to 0 and the variance equal to n0 by 2. Please note we have assumed a additive Gaussian channel noise. Now, Since the constellation diagram is two-dimensional, the observation vector x, which is derived from x of t, will have two components, and let them be denoted as xi of t indicating the in-phase component and xq of t indicating the quadrature phase component. In the presence of noise, the decision-making process will now completely depend upon these coordinates points xi of t and xq of t, which are in fact given by xi equals to, this is si1 plus wi, this will be xq equals to si2 plus wq. We have already found what is Si1 and Si2 in one of our previous slides. So I have to now substitute these parts in place of Si1 and Si2, and which is what is shown here. So the in-phase component of the observation vector Xi equals square root of E cos 2 pi I by m plus Wi, and the quadrature phase component is Xq equals square root of E sin 2 pi I by m plus Wq. You should note even the noise component has in-phase and quadrature phase components, where the mean of these noise components will be 0 and the variance will be n0 by 2. The optimum receiver for a coherent M-Array PSK assuming perfect synchronization with the transmitter is shown in the diagram here. This, as you can see, includes a pair of correlators. You should note a multiplier followed by an integrator is a correlator, and we have a pair of reference signals which are in phase quadrature. As we know, the correlator outputs are xi and xq, and these two correlator outputs are fed to a phase discriminator that computes the phase estimate theta cap, which is given by theta cap equals tan inverse of xq divided by xi. Once the phase estimate theta cap is computed, then the phase discriminator selects from the set of all input signals Si of t that particular signal whose phase is closest to the estimate theta cap. To show you an example of how this works, let me just go back to the constellation diagram once again. As we can see, the message points exhibit circular symmetry. The implication of this symmetry is that in M-Array PSK system, the average probability of error is independent of the particular signal Si of t that is transmitted. We may now therefore simplify the calculation for the average probability of error by setting the phase value, which is theta I, equals to 0. Now, this theta I equals to 0 corresponds to a message point whose coordinates on the phi1 and phi2 axis are root E and 0. This is nothing but S0 of t. Now, the decision region pertaining to this message point, which is S0 of t, is bounded by the threshold minus pi by m to plus pi by m. That is, it is by a value of minus pi by m below the phi1 axis and plus pi by m above the phi1 axis. As we know, if the received signal point falls inside this region, then it is a correct reception. If, on the other hand, the observation vector falls outside this region, then it will be an erroneous reception. Let us now talk about a correct reception first. And for S0 of t, I will write the equation for correct reception, noting the limits are plus pi by m to minus pi by m. This is given here. Right. So, the probability of correct reception for S0 of t is given by integral minus pi by m to plus pi by m. Here I am supposed to write the likelihood function, that is f theta of theta cap, where theta cap is the estimate that is created by the discriminator, and f theta of theta cap is the probability density function of some random variable capital theta whose sample value is small theta, and this small theta cap is computed by the phase discriminator. Now, since I am computing the probability of correctness for S0 of t, I will note that the in-phase component is equal to root E because cos of 0 is 1, and the quadrature phase component is equals to 0 because sin of 0 is 0. So, I will substitute Si1 and Si2 as root E and 0 into the equation for theta cap, which is given by equation here. We should note xq is equals to Si2 plus Wq, whereas xi is equals to Si1 plus wi, which is what is given here. So x cube by xi is equals to, we are supposed to write si2 plus wq, but si2 is 0, and in the denominator it is si1, which is root e, assuming s0 of t was transmitted, plus wi. Now, in a very important note, the phase theta cap is recognized to be the same as the phase of the sine wave plus the narrow band noise. Therefore, the probability density function f theta of theta cap will have a known value. Particularly for theta cap varying from minus pi to plus pi, the probability density function is given by the equation 16 here. You should note this is for minus pi to plus pi. And the form of this equation is shown in the graph here. Please note that we have shown multiple plots for f theta of theta cap for varying values of E by N naught. You should also note that the probability density function approaches an impulse-like appearance about the value of theta as the value of E by N naught assumes very high values. You can see for E by N naught equals to 0, it is almost flat, and for E by N naught equals to 12.5, it is almost impulse-like in appearance. Let us now move on to the erroneous decision. We know that we have currently transmitted signal S0 of t, which has a decision boundary varying from minus pi by m to plus pi by m. If the received signal point falls inside this decision boundary, then it is a correct decision. On the other hand, if the observation vector falls outside this decision boundary, then it is an erroneous decision. So we can also say it as an erroneous decision is made if the value of theta cap falls outside the decision boundaries for S0 of t. Therefore, the probability of symbol error for MRE PSK can be given as PE equals to 1 minus PC, where PC is the probability of correct decision, which was given in our previous equation. Let us now substitute equation 14 into the place of PC, and therefore the probability of erroneous decision is equal to 1 minus, this is the probability of correct decision. Now, when I take m equals to 2, this complete system becomes binary PSK. If I take m equals to 4, then the system converts itself into quadri-phase shift keying technique. However, in general, the integral that is shown in equation 17 here does not reduce to any simple form except for the case when m equals to 2 or m equals to 4. Therefore, for m greater than 4, it has to be evaluated by using numerical integration. In this derivation, we are not going to use the numerical integration step, but we are going to assume for large value of m, that is the number of input signals, as well as for high values of E by N naught, it is possible to derive an approximate formula for the average probability of error. This is what we are going to do in this particular derivation. So, for high value of E by N naught, and the magnitude of theta cap less than pi by 2, we have ERFC of minus E by N naught into cos theta cap approximately equal to square root of N naught by pi E 1 by cos theta cap into exponential of minus E by N naught into cos square theta cap. Now, you should note why we have used this equation, because this LHS part is directly taken from this part. You see, the last part of this equation except for 1 by 2 is what we have tried to simplify. So, now what I will do, I will take the RHS of this equation 18 and substitute it back into this part of equation 16. Also, we already have assumed that the value of E by N naught is considerably large, and therefore for large values of E by N naught, the first term in the RHS of equation 16 will go to 0. So what remains is only the second term, and after substituting equation 18 in place of this part of equation 16 and simplifying, we will get the conditional probability density function as f theta of theta cap approximately equal to square root of E by pi into N naught cos theta cap into exponential of minus E by N naught into sine square theta cap. Please note, this is for magnitude of theta cap less than pi by 2. Right. So now we have the equation for the conditional probability density function, and we also have the equation for the average probability of symbol error. Let us substitute f theta of theta cap into this part of equation 17 and simplify, which is given here. So probability of error is now equals to 1 minus of the RHS of equation 19 is replaced here. The integral limits anyhow remain the same. Just like what we have done in all our previous derivations for probability of error, it is now time to change the variable from theta to z. So let the square root of the contents of the exponential term except for the negative symbol be taken as z. So z is equals to square root of this complete thing except for negative symbol. So z is given by square root of e by n naught into sine theta cap. Now I have to change the integral limits to obtain new integral limits. So I will substitute the old integral limits into here for theta cap, and I will obtain the new integral limits. Let us start with the lower limit, which is minus pi by m. When I substitute theta cap as minus pi by m, here I will get z equals to square root of e by n naught into sine of minus pi by m. Now we know that sine of minus theta is equals to minus sine theta. Therefore, this term will reduce to minus of square root of e by n naught into sine pi by m. Let us now move on to the upper limit, which is pi by m. So when theta cap is equals to plus pi by m, z equals to square root of e by n naught into sine of plus pi by m. Lastly, we have to now find the value for d theta cap as well. And now to find this, I will have to now differentiate this equation with respect to theta cap. So dz by d theta cap is equals to square root of e by n naught into sine theta cap integration is cos theta cap. Then by rearranging this equation, I will find d theta cap is equals to dz divided by square root of e by n naught into cos theta cap. Let us now substitute all these values into equation 20. Please note, we have taken z is equals to square root of e by n naught into sin theta cap. So the exponential term will become exponential of minus z square. This is what is given here. So the probability of error is approximately equal to, we have 1 minus of square root of e by pi n naught, which remains as it is, no change in that. The limits of integral now are supposed to change. The lower limit is minus pi by m in the old equation, and in the new equation it is supposed to be minus square root of e by n naught into sin pi by m. Upper limit is plus square root of e by n naught into sin pi by m. So we have changed the integral limits as well. Then comes the cos theta cap, which again remains as it is, no change in that. Then the exponential part, since this is supposed to be minus z square, we will have exponential of minus z square. Lastly, we have d theta cap, which is shown here. So we will substitute this complete part into d theta cap place. Now, if you look at this part carefully, we have cos theta cap in the numerator here and cos theta cap in the denominator. They will cancel out. Further, we have square root of e by n naught in the numerator and square root of e by n naught in the denominator. They will also cancel out. Further, we also note that integral of minus x to plus x can be given as 2 into integral of 0 to x. So by using that property, I will reduce the integral limits into 2 into integral 0 to x, where x is the integral limits as shown here. Right. Having made all those changes, the new equation is 1 minus 2 divided by square root of pi integral 0 to square root of e by n naught into sin pi by m exponential of minus z square into dz. Now, if you look at this very carefully, we have the lower limit as 0 and the upper limit is square root of e by n naught into sin pi by m. In all my previous equations, I have tried to compare this equation with ERFC function equation. But in the ERFC function equation, we have the lower limit to be u and the upper limit to be infinity. So I have to now exchange the limits of this integration, and this can be simply done as per the equation shown here. So I can write this equation now as 1 minus 2 by root pi integral. The upper limit has now become the lower limit, but please note the new upper limit is infinity. Right? So finally, the average probability of error equation is approximately equal to 2 by root pi integral square root of e by n naught sin pi by m to infinity exponential of minus z square dz. Right. This equation is now very similar to the complementary error function, which in fact is given by ERFC of u equals to 2 by root pi integral u to infinity exponential of minus z square. If you compare this equation with equation 21 here, we will find the final expression for the average probability of error for M-Array PSK to be ERFC of square root of E by N naught into sin pi by M. This is the final expression for the average probability of error for M-Array PSK. Please note, we have tried to find this equation for m greater than 4, because for m equals to 2 we already have binary PSK, for m is equals to 4 we have QPSK, and therefore this equation is for m greater than or equal to 4. Further, you should also note this is not the exact equation because we have not used the numerical integration step and we have made some assumptions to derive the same. First and foremost, we assumed E by N naught is very high and value of magnitude of theta cap is less than pi by 2. These two assumptions have led us to this equation, and if you had in fact used the numerical integration, you would obtain a further simplified equation, but that derivation is highly complex. Right. With that, I end this discussion on the derivation for the average probability of error for M-Array PSK. If you like this video, kindly press that like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos on digital communication. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.